Hello, you are listening to Just Films and That. This is the podcast where we celebrate those films we think deserve a little bit more love, whether they're underrated or underseen. We're going to talk about them. It's me again this week. I'm on my own. It's Josh. Hi, how you doing? Thank you very much for tuning in. I'm going to do another listener's suggestion. Before I get started, if you're going to head on over to whatever app you listen to this on, give us a lovely rating and review. It does help other people find us, and then they can send us their suggestions, which would be great because we need them. Yes, so if you do want to suggest a film, then drop us an email at filmsandthatpod@gmail.com. Tell us a suggestion, a little bit about yourself, and you can even do a voice note if you want. That's just what James did. James got in touch to suggest a film called Frequently Asked Questions About Time Travel from 2009. So spoiler warnings if you've not seen that. I have to play the voice note for James off my phone just because of a technical issue I'm having. So hopefully the sound quality is good enough. And here it is. Here's what James had to say.
Hi, Just Films and That. I'm James, retired comedian and professional podcast botherer. My suggestion is Frequently Asked Questions About Time Travel, a crisp 83-minute British comedy about time travel, kind of like what Shaun of the Dead did with zombie films. This does with time travel. It's really funny, the cast is brilliant, and it's definitely underseen. I've not met anyone who's actually seen this movie, and it's very, very, very good. So have fun.
Yeah, there we go. So thank you very much for that, James. So as he says, it's a film called Frequently Asked Questions About Time Travel from 2009. He hit the nail on the head with the Shaun of the Dead comparison. It is very much that in terms of in terms of what it's trying to do. It's got Chris O'Dowd in it, Mark Wootton, who you might have seen in Nativity, Dean Lennox Kelly, who you've seen. If you've seen, he's been in a lot of British telly. He's in Mike Bassett, England manager, as Tonka as well, and it's got Anna Faris in it in a lovely little role. So yeah, let's go in and have a look at it then. So just to remind you of the structure. I always start with what I liked about the film, and then what I didn't like about the film, and then we have a little look at the critical reception in terms of whether it's underseen, whether it's underrated. I think mainly I would say James is saying there it's a bit of an underrated, underseen gem, so I think he's probably saying it's both. Going into this, I hadn't even heard of it, so that's probably a good bet as to where this is going, certainly in terms of it being underseen. But you know what? There was plenty to like here. Really, really enjoyed it. The cast are great. The banter and the chemistry between the three leads work, which are the three people who I just mentioned there, who aren't Anna Faris. They're not conventional leading men. A little bit like that Shaun of the Dead comparison is going to keep coming up, but a little bit like Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. They're not conventional leading men, and I like that they work together really, really well. It is pretty funny. It's a sort of chuckler for me, but I did think it was pretty funny on the whole. I like the idea, and I like what they do with the execution of the idea, which I'll come on to. But for example, one of the things I was laughing at is I think, and I hope I'm right in thinking this, but I think it is almost purposefully complicated and convoluted as a joke about films about time travel and sci-fi and stuff like that. So I really enjoyed that. So as I said, and if you like Shaun of the Dead, you'll probably like this. So that's probably a really good way to sort of go into it in terms of what you're expecting. So I do like it, and I like what it's not. Shaun of the Dead's not the only film that's done this. There's plenty of others, but I like that idea of it's a low-key British approach with British comedy in it applied to a Hollywood formula. So there's plenty of the ones that we've done before, or there's other films, for example, like the one that comes to mind would be like sports films like Blackball. Mike Bassett can be one, high stakes, high drama, but dressed up in that British sentiment of like sarcasm or being a little bit sour about things and things like that. Loads of great sci-fi references throughout. Aliens and Flash Gordon to name but a few. 12 Monkeys sort of had a little bit of 12 Monkeys in there as well. And I do think that use of pastiche to time travel film is really, really good in terms of how quite meta it is. And the more it goes along, the more convoluted and complicated it gets in terms of the rules of the film. And the sort of impression I got, and I do hope this is right, is that was on purpose, as I've already said. So things like the constant use of MacGuffins, the constant use of misdirection, the constant use of almost like mystery box, that mystery box element of you just could never quite get a resolution. I really enjoyed that. I thought it was really funny, but then you do get a resolution at the end, and there are all those things in there like a love story and great back and forth, and the whole idea of people finding themselves through a convoluted, insane thing happening to them and stuff like that. So yeah, plenty to like there. The other thing as well is there's just some really great ingenious budgetary decisions in there, and I don't think that should go. Creative problem solving in filmmaking is a real underrated skill because we're so used to seeing films with ridiculous budgets, barely making their money back. But this is the complete opposite. It's clearly made not for very much. So, for example, it's a film about time travel with no time machine. It's just in their heads. The whole film's pretty much set in one place. When there is CGI, the CGI isn't very good, but it's that sort of, is it that Doctor Who laughing at the fact that it's a bit crap sort of thing? That's what I got anyway. So yeah, really good creative problem solving around the fact that, because it is a TV film. It is a TV film, I think. I don't think it got a cinema release, or if it did, it got a very, very small one. In terms of the dislikes, it's really, really tough for me, this, because I did quite enjoy it, and all the stuff I thought was bad, the more I thought about it, and the more I made notes and prepared for this, the more I thought that is pastiche. That is, it's it's making reference to stuff. So, like I say, some of the CGI is bad, but it doesn't matter because it's obviously sending up things that have bad CGI. It's a bit hard to follow in places, but again, I got that they were making a joke about that. Some of the dialogue is a little bit on the nose with a little bit too much exposition dumping. Again, I got that was, all these time travel films where they have to have someone just explain the rules, and, Back to the Future, or, even things like the butterfly effect, or, like I say, other sci-fi things like Aliens and Flash Gordon and things like that. What I will say is two things, and these are very minor things. Number one, my God, this time in filmmaking was an absolute godless time for fashion. What the guys are wearing in this would have been about the time I was sort of first an adult going out and moving to university and stuff. And oh God, it was a godless time for fashion. It brought back some horrible memories of frosted tips and hoodies and bad stonewashed jeans, and oh God, oh guys, it was a real horror show that back then. All you got to do is Google it, look at any red carpet show from around sort of 2005 to 2009, and Jesus. And then the only other thing is, I didn't find it that funny, but it is still plenty funny. I just would say it's more of a chuckler rather than a laugh out louder. So look at the critical reception then. Let's have a look. So, just to remind you how it works, we take the IMDb score, the Rotten Tomatoes audience score, the Rotten Tomatoes critics score, and we average them out. So, at the time of recording over on IMDb, it gets 7 out of 10. The Rotten Tomatoes audience give it 61%, and the Rotten Tomatoes critics give it 35%, which averages out at 55%. So, I would say, yeah, that's really harsh, actually, particularly that critics score. Particularly 35%, it's not that, I say it's not that bad. It was good. I enjoyed it. I would say that is definitely underrated by quite a bit. So yeah, I definitely say it's underrated, James. In terms of a TV, in terms of the box office, it's a TV film, so I think it's hard to say whether it is or isn't underseen, because streaming services like iPlayer don't really release their numbers. According to Box Office Mojo, it made 23 grand, which is less, I think, than minimum wage. So I think we could probably say it's underseen based on the fact that, it doesn't seem that many people have seen it, doesn't have loads of reviews. It didn't make much at the box office, and I hadn't heard of it, which, again, I'm not the be-all and end-all, but I have a film podcast, so if I've not even heard of a film, it's a good bet it's probably underseen. So there we go, James. It's underseen, it's underrated. Thank you very much for getting in touch. I hope it was the answer that you wanted, and do feel free to get in touch again with another suggestion. In the meantime, all that remains to be said is we'll be back next week with another episode. If you'd like to suggest a film, then do drop us a voice note or an email or a direct message to filmsandthatpod@gmail.com, or any of the social medias, where we will pick that up and add it to our list. You can even do it, as I say, as a voice note. We'll include it in the episode. Did you know what the other thing you can do is include it as a rating or review? And we'll pick that up and go through them. And that would be very much appreciated. We'll see you next week. Thank you very much for listening. It's goodbye from me. Cheerio.